Coming out of the keyboard holes coming out of the speakers, coming out of the vent.
Anyway.
It's coming out of everywhere.
Oh my god. Okay, it's finally fixed though. Hello everyone and welcome to this rough start of an episode for the Kat Café, a podcast.
And today we're going to talk about computer architecture and maintenance.
Yes, it is a podcast stream live on Twitch where we talk about lighthearted topics that'll make you scratch your head or wherever you scratch. Today's topic is
Can we please change that intro?
Bama, please excuse me. I'm making my intro. Please. This is the third time you've interrupted me. Please, let me finish my intro before you start speaking. Please. Today's topic is episode 6 of a mini-series we've been making called The Arts. Today's episode is all about the art of architecture. And actually, this is actually pretty relevant because they, as many of you might know, they are rebuilding the Notre Dame, which was sadly inflamed by... I don't remember the whole story, I need to look it up. But luckily they're rebuilding it, which is very good because I'm a big fan of landmarks and I think it's a very nice thing that they're rebuilding it. And ironically, they're rebuilding it from a video game. I'm pretty sure you all know that video game because we referenced it in the previous episode, and it was free for a certain time. I forgot to download it. Did not download that. Yeah. Assassin's Creed Unity was free for a certain period of time. And they're using it to rebuild the Notre Dame. Because apparently, the guy who made the Notre Dame in the game... Is it Notre Dame or Notre Dame? I never know.
I think it's Let me look. Okay, I got my computer out, but I'm still on my phone while recording this. So
Yeah.
let me look up how to pronounce Notre Dame. I'd say it that way, but let's see.
Yes. Well, anyway.
Go ahead and keep talking.
Yes.
Well, go ahead and keep talking. I'll I'll do
Anyway,
that.
I'm joined here by the interrupting Bama Barov and Al Brother.
Not who's there? Interrupting Bama Barrel? Interrupting Bama.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, we're here to talk about the art of architecture, which is an art that has been with us since the Stone Age, honestly. Now I think about it. Architecture has been around us for ages now, and architects are still some of the most, well, I guess the most renowned artists in the world right now, because their work can be seen everywhere. I'm pretty sure you've all seen very wacky houses made by architects that seem to have taken a bit too much of those sweet adult uses.
No. They aren't on sweets or anything. They aren't on a rush of sugar and beer. They just think they're artists. Architectures are not entirely artists.
No,
it can be an art. It can be an art if done right. But when you do something as crazy as like a fully glass house with tons of random glass panes shooting out of who knows where, that's not art. That's just chaos.
Have you seen the picture of like College of Architectural Planning? And,
College
like,
of Architectural Planning?
hold on a second.
Yeah.
Let me get the picture.
Yeah. Alright. Oh, jeez. Well, it's a good thing that they're rebuilding Notre Dame, though. But the thing is, it's amazing how the architecture of those days still lives on and has withstood withstood the test of time. It's amazing
All right,
how we
I have
still
a conclusive result about how to pronounce Notre Dame, by the way.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Americans say Notre Dame in reference to the sports team or whatever, while it's Notre Dame to refer to the cathedral.
Ah, okay, so it's Notre Dame. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, cool. Well,
And I found
we-
the
I guess I'm gonna have Squeeber's job for the time being.
well, I guess you can if you want to.
Oh, brother, I just saw that thing you posted.
Mm,
That is not good architecture.
Hold up.
precisely.
With like just that one C of college just off on the brick instead of on the black where everything else is. Like that's just what is it? What's that thing called? What's that subreddit called? Poor architecture or something?
Oh, it's
It was like
it's our crappy design, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that
where
one.
this belongs.
Oh, okay. To be fair, what you're saying about architects can be said about any kind of artist, really. It's just, I
Yeah.
guess the thing is, a bad architect is definitely much more noticeable than a good architect, because at least when you make a bad art piece, it can just be cast aside. You make a bad architecture piece, it's there forever, or at least until someone destroys it, and it costs a bit to actually take it down. It's not exactly free.
more than money. I'd say it costs time.
Yeah, exactly. So if you make a bad architecture piece, it's people aren't gonna know about it, and they're never ever gonna let it go.
Actually, I heard of this. This is on the subject of architecture. I've actually heard of this weird gargoyle-looking thing that looks like it's from Ridley Scott's Alien.
Oh, I mean, yeah, those
But
are...
every other gargoyle around it looks like a normal gargoyle. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
jeez, why is this freaking out?
Yeah.
My computer is just not liking the stream. What the heck?
Okay, quick before Kat.
Yeah, I
dies,
even just found the picture of it.
Before I
Just
die
found the picture of
again.
it.
Yeah, go ahead. Before I
Yeah,
die
before-
again.
Before you die again, just want to bring up something I thought was relevant to the topic. IKEA, very nice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, jeez. Oh, okay. So apparently, for those of you on YouTube, I'll have to edit that in. There is apparently a Ridley Scott's Alien gargoyle.
It wasn't made. It was like done before Ridley Scott's Alien, but it's just really weird how
It is pretty
managed to
similar,
look
yeah.
like the same thing, rib cage and all.
Maybe it's just, I guess.
I think there's even a YouTube video.
I guess
about
it's
it.
the inspiration, right? It could be the inspiration. Who knows? Hey, now that I think about it, yeah, it probably could be the inspiration.
But yeah, well, what I was talking about was that like the IKEA stuff is usually well planned.
Yes.
Okay, real quick, and it's apparently also on a 12th century abbey, whatever that is. I don't know. I don't know British words.
All right.
Mm.
Go ahead. What was about?
I'm just saying that's.
Oh, what? Sorry. What? It's apparently what? Sorry.
I don't know who you're talking to.
I'm talking to you because you were gonna say something.
I thought. I was at there.
We.
Well,
Just
What
go on without
happened?
me for a minute. Okay, I'm gonna put. Okay, I remember what I was gonna say. I'm gonna put the link to the video in somewhere else in the server, so you
Okay.
can like put it in the description of the video when it's done.
Put it in chain link. Put it in the open cafe actually.
Oh, I just put it in chain link, but I can put it in the open cafe as well.
Yeah. I mean, much better.
Just-
Thank you.
There you go.
Just
There
want to
we
say,
go.
abbey can be used interchangeably with monastery.
Was
Ah.
okay. Also, it's interesting how a lot of Roman architecture has stayed around for a long time. And okay, I understand it's a stone building or whatever, but you know, for such an old civilization, when you think about it, like the Greeks aren't exactly that recent. They're pretty old, and their architecture still stands. And I think one of the biggest example of good architecture is architecture that not only looks nice but is also very functional. The Greeks actually had, I remember hearing this from a history class, and it's actually true. Greeks had a very primitive form of plumbing back in the day. Yes, the Greeks.
It's the aqueduct, right?
The aqueducts, yeah.
That was
It was
Romans.
like, yeah.
The aqueduct was the Romans. If I
Oh, were they
remember
Romans?
correctly.
My bad. I didn't mean. I'm sorry to all those historians. They're probably gonna kill me.
Mhm.
Yeah, but yeah, it was actually the Romans that had really a smart architecture. And the thing is, they didn't just like stick some rods and tubes and stuff. They like made arcs around it and made it all pretty, and actually made it fit into the city, which is fascinating for me. I think so. I would think so.
If I remember correctly, it looks a lot like a bridge.
It does look a lot like a bridge. It's kind of like art.
Except, it's not a bridge.
No, but like it was interesting how a civilization that is considerably old had has such modern stuff. Something so modern as plumbing was actually there back in the day, which I think is one of the biggest examples of how architecture affects us. Because when you think about it, a lot of the stuff the Romans did actually stands today. Even the Spanish have kind of copied them a bit. Yeah, and going back to what episode was it? I think it was theater. Going back to theater, the Greeks had architecture that would have very good acoustics because obviously back in the day there were microphones, which I think you were on that episode, Bama, right? You remember what I talk about?
The theater?
Yes.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah. So
I've been on every episode of the art so far, including movies, even though I was just in the chat on the stream.
okay. But you were like officially on the actual episode that time. Oh, hello Tiki. Glad to have you on. Sorry for the glitchy stream. I'll have to fix all that, don't worry. I'll fix all. But yeah, it's interesting how these are all examples of architecture, and this is architecture that involves other stuff. Nowadays, when people think about architecture, they mostly just think housing. Yeah. I guess it's because nowadays we don't really need much stuff. I would say that. Right? Would you say that?
I would say that we're probably fine, but there's definitely a lot more stuff that needs to be made. Like, the reason there's a bunch of construction around where I am is because of, like populations of people that don't exactly have a lot of places to live.
Real quick, Neko, did you see
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. You saw him. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm making sure you saw what Tiki said.
Yeah. Don't worry. Thanks, though. Yeah, but you were saying, brother? I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying that it was because there's sometimes where people don't exactly have a lot of places to live in, so they end up being without housing. So that's why I think there's more housing being made.
Well, yeah, but there's usually architecture nowadays is it's used mainly for housing that is, I would say, extravagant to say the least. For example, there was a woman that turned an airplane into her house. I'm not even joking.
Yeah. Well, wasn't there a guy who turned a giant potato into a house?
There was a guy that made his house out of Legos. Yeah.
Yeah, there was that.
Like I said,
I also remember
sorry?
the potato.
Yeah, no, there's yeah.
Yeah, I'm more interested in the potato. How do you even do that?
But like, do you mean like a?
Idaho?
You mean like,
Idaho.
You mean like a full-on potato, or like?
Yeah, like a potato.
I'm guessing it's not exactly. I'm guessing it's not exactly an actual potato, right?
It's a giant potato.
How big? What?
It's
How
like
big? How big can potatoes be?
It's like the house part of an RV, I guess.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know.
What? Holy crap! But like, okay, hold up. Let me just get my head around this. There was a potato that grew to such size that it was actually able to become a house. But okay, first of all, how do you maintain that house? Because I mean, potatoes rot, right?
Maybe.
I don't know, cause I thought they were like potato. I thought potatoes were like one of the sturdiest, like starchy foods, kind of.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, they don't rot that easily.
Oh, really?
It says there is a soft rot disease for potatoes.
Oh. But okay, so Do you know a lot? Do you know more about the story, or is that just something you overheard?
No, just something I heard. I don't know a lot about it.
Well, I guess you could make architecture out of everything. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the Lego bit because I have a feeling that Legos are are quite. I would say that they piqued my interest for architecture at least a bit.
Yeah, but I guess I'm still trying to wrap my head around that kind of concept. I guess architectures nowadays literally.
Did he chisel it out with a chisel and hammer?
Yeah,
Did
okay.
Because
No. I'm actually not too far from that, Bama, because nowadays architects are more like planners. We plan something out, and there's a group of people that actually make what the architect plans. It's like a script writer. Someone writes a script, and then someone else makes a movie. But I'm just guessing what the guy told the team when he said, "Okay, so we have just starting off. Okay, so we have a giant potato.
We're gonna turn it into an RV.
Yeah,
Without the wheels and the cab. We're just gonna make it the house part of the RV. We're gonna make a couch."
Why is he from Brooklyn?
No. I think I was channeling Danny DeVito there.
Oh, okay. You're channeling your inner garbage.
We're gonna make it a trash can out of a potato.
Yes.
I'm the trash man.
So wait, it had wheels, right?
We're gonna grab it in the ring and throw it around the ring and eat the garbage out of the potato.
Okay, so Bama, thank you for that Danny DeVito impression, but we actually have an announcement. We have a
Really now?
Yes, we have a new speaker. So welcome to the podcast, Tiki's for the win. We're glad to have you
Yeah.
here.
I'm fine if you just say FTW. So.
FTW, okay. Well, FTW,
Formal
we're glad to have you on. I'm sorry that this podcast is a bit glitchy compared to other ones. Still trying to fix some things around.
Could I say one thing about myself?
Yeah, sure thing. Go ahead. Please don't
I'm the
curse
scum of
words.
the earth because I made Ganondorf.
Oh.
Okay.
Well,
Thanks for telling us
I mean,
something that was.
other people made
he's-
DDD, so
yeah. Well,
DDD is justifiable. If you ask me.
I know I gave myself that title in like the camp.
well.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway.
Let's not talk about the camp.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's not just
I'm
talk
glad you
about
guys know
that
what that is, 'cause I
cursed
don't.
realm.
No, gosh.
You know,
It's gonna
that-
turn into a. It's gonna turn into a Smash podcast, isn't it?
I
Nope, let's
prefer
keep
it
on
not
subject.
to.
Nah, I'm good.
Alright, anyway, Tiki, as with all new speakers, welcome to the Cat Box. We're glad to have you here. And since you become a speaker of the Cat Cafe, you get to have a role of your choosing. Here in the Cat Cafe,
Right.
we offer both coffee and tea, but we do ask you your preference.
T, I guess.
Oh, so you're
another T-Man. Yes.
Another T-man. Well then. I am alone. Oh no, I guess how many
Welcome
coffee
to the
people do
T posers.
Oh gosh, no.
I know. It's very strange that, like I say this, even though I don't drink coffee, either tea.
Oh, you don't drink either? But you have a preference for tea, usually.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
By
that's
the way,
fine.
you'll notice
I
I'm
know-
the
I know it's
gravekeeper,
an
so if you
odd
have
thing to
any
say.
person to put in the grave, just let me know.
Oh yeah.
Put me in the grave, please.
No, yeah, he's
All right.
he always introduces people saying stuff like that, so I just gave him the role. It was supposed to be an Easter egg, Bama, but okay.
Sorry,
No, it's fine.
Alright.
I did not know your intention.
That's fine. Anyway, yes, he's one
I'm
of the.
very oblivious.
He's one. I can. I can tell. No offense.
Oh dear.
Well, Tiki.
Is
It's
this
just
a shade throwing podcast? Or are we going to talk about architecture? Architecture of that roast was sublime.
I've been trying to, but let's get back.
It's just funny in this like group chat. Like, we have one person where his icon is a pixelated Ganondorf, another person where his icon is an owl, some OC. No offense, and I don't even know what that.
I
a
am a
nickel.
bear off. You uncultured
Oh
swine.
god. Okay, let's move on before we
well-
talk about Baroth, please.
Oh gosh, yes, please.
Well, it's kind of hard to tell with seeing a thing that freaking seeing an icon being that small.
Well,
Alright.
Tiki.
Let's not instigate and let's move on, please.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
Tiki, I
Oh
hope
no,
you,
instigate more.
here you have your tea roll. Hopefully you enjoy it. And I do have to ask you, what kind of architecture are you most familiar with?
I don't know what to say about that.
All right. Is there any architecture you have more knowledge about? Do you have something? Do you have some sort of extra knowledge on the subject of architecture?
Not really.
All right. Well, I kind of to prove my point. When you think of architecture, Tiki, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Well, like buildings looking like fine or like really aesthetic, I guess.
All right. What kind of building specifically, though?
He's dead.
I think he died.
He's dead, Jim.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I have the
Our
same.
brain.exe stopped working.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad to have you back. But anyway, when you think of architecture, you think of buildings. But what kind of buildings specifically do you think about? Oh my gosh, did he die again?
Can't ask him that question. He's gonna die.
Yeah, he's died twice now. The building fell on him.
I do not know what to say about this. I'm only in high school.
All right.
Listen,
Well,
So-
what about I hope I don't kill you guys too. Our brother and Bama, what do you guys think of first? Like, what kind of building do you usually think about when you hear architecture?
Usually something very like the Eiffel Tower.
I don't actually think of a building. I just think of architecture. I just think of the subject. If that makes sense.
How so? If you could explain.
I just think of buildings in general. Not a specific image doesn't exactly pop into my head.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Usually you have to specify from what area of the world the architecture is, like Greek architecture, French
Yeah.
architecture.
Yeah, if you said something, if you specified, I would probably get an image in my head. But if you just said architecture, I just think, oh, buildings. Okay.
Okay, interesting.
Actually, speaking of that, I actually kind of like Greek architecture.
You like Greek
Yeah, we were
architecture?
talking about Greek architecture earlier.
Yes. And we were
Personally, I always kind of like those little strips of road with like all the apartments all going down the side of it. You know what I mean?
I think you're talking
I just
about.
like the way that looks. It looks very quaint.
I think you're talking about Spanish architecture there. I'm not sure. It might be Italian though.
No, like you go down the hill. That's the most common place to see it. Or it's like just down a strip of road, and there's like these big rectangular buildings, and it's just all like they're not really that big, but they're like apartments most of the time.
In
So-
Greece?
You mean like yeah?
No, I don't really know where they're from. I just seen it.
But is it like more modernistic or more vintage?
If I had a name of it, if I knew the name of that kind of architecture, I'd just look it up and.
Yeah, but like, do you think you know
I
like,
would-
is it like more antique, more like? Do you think it's more what's the word?
Are the roads narrower or wider?
Yeah.
Well, they have to be two lane. They have to be two. It'd either be 2 lane or 1 lane.
Okay, yeah. So I guess it's
Yeah.
more
So the roads aren't
modernistic
that wide.
architecture. I think I know you want. Yeah, so it's
That's-
more like
that's
New
very
York.
Spanish.
Are you talking about like actual modern buildings, or are you talking about brick roads with buildings and stuff?
No, like cement roads and I don't know.
Okay. So
If I knew the name, I'd look it up and show you, but I don't know the name.
yeah,
Vague image.
I think I have a vague image of it too. Kind of like that Italian kind of road with many buildings and complexes and stuff. Yeah, we
Let's
actually.
continue. I'm not cultured enough to know what I'm talking about.
No, I think because where I'm from, we actually have those too. Because like where I'm from, the Spanish were very influential in terms of architecture because we have every single town has a plaza every single town has like these like olden buildings and churches and stuff. So I kind of have an idea what you're talking about because I kind of lived in that kind of area. So I have an idea what you're talking about, but I think the one I'm thinking of is more Italian than Spanish, really. Where also, it's amazing how Spain actually, like, its architecture is seen throughout many countries other than Spain. And that's like, you can see, it's interesting how you can tell the history of a country by where its architecture is, which I think is like fascinating. It's like a little mini footprint.
Real quick,
Yeah.
I just remembered another subject. I remember another interesting subject of architecture.
Okay.
The Hollywood Tower of Terror in Disneyland and Disney World.
I guess you can count that as
They
architecture.
they actually look very different. Like before the Disneyland Tower of Terror became the Guardians of the Galaxy ride that it is now.
Okay.
It actually.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me find a picture and
Nah,
then you can
that's
put
okay.
it in there.
Actually, that's a very good question, though. Would you consider attractions and kind of like parks? Would you consider like normal parks and all kinds of what would you call it? Amusement parks. Would you consider amusement parks and normal parks and those kinds of places of entertainment to be an example of architecture as well?
I would only count the big ones, to be honest, because they have the budget and the ingenuity to actually pull off amazing feats of architecture. Like for example, the new Pandora Land in Animal Kingdom at Disney World.
Wait, sorry.
That place is amazing.
Sorry, did you say you don't or that you do?
I only consider like the really big ones like Universal and Disney.
Oh, why is that?
Like I'm sure because they have the budget and the creativity to really pull it off. You would need really both to pull off. More like mostly the amazing feats, I guess.
Well, yeah, but I guess creativity isn't exactly something you can buy. I guess it comes from somewhere.
Well, you got to buy the people who have the creativity to design the thing, don't you?
Okay, true. I guess you could say that.
Anyways, there's the Disneyland Tower of Terror in the Open Cafe.
Oh, okay.
Now take that in, and then.
Oh yeah, that is quite interesting.
That is, yeah, and I think one of the most interesting aspects about that architecture is how they had to balance the entire thing.
Hold on, I'm getting the Disney World one because like I said, they look very different.
Yeah, I understand.
And then here is the Disney World one.
But what about?
Look at how different they look.
Oh, true. Yeah, you're right. They do look pretty different.
The Disney World one was actually designed with Epcot in mind, trying to make it blend in with the background because you can see the Tower of Terror from a certain area of Epcot, but the way it looks from behind, because that's the area of the tower you see, it blends in with the skyline and doesn't stand out.
Also, I think, in my personal opinion, right, I would say that. Would you say that city planners are a form of architecture? I mean, I know that they don't officially have the title of architect, to my knowledge. They don't have it, but would you consider them that? Because, I mean, they have to kind of plan out and beautify the city, so I'm guessing it would be...
I would say... Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I would say definitely, because... Well, I have a relative who works on this. My grandfather.
Oh, city planning?
Side. Yeah, well, city planning. It's based on the roads and stuff, like where to put traffic lights, where to build new roads and stuff. He plans all that stuff out, and other people build it. So, what he described to me as the most satisfying part of his job was seeing it all work, so that there is a function to it. Besides just sitting there and standing up.
Okay.
The way the inflow, outflow, stuff like that you have to manage.
Could I ask his title though? Like, what title does he have? Do you know?
I don't, even though I'm in a podcast right now and I'm not even saying anything.
Sorry, we tend to just get wrapped up in our own conversation. Do you have something you would like to add?
Yeah, true. I'm sorry.
Not really.
All right. Do you have any relatives or any friends that have the sort of knowledge in planning or blueprinting? Is that what you say? You know, that kind of stuff in general.
I don't know, but there were blueprints involved.
There were no blueprints involved?
Planner. So
Okay. But, really? If that's true, then how do they usually plan stuff then, Al? Do you know, or...?
They wing it. Get it?
I guess so. Al, you there?
hey, give me a moment.
Yeah, that's fine.
He's needing to recover from my pun.
I'm just sitting here listening to all of you talking while I'm just like sitting here like playing Hearthstone.
Well...
Well, I mean, if you have something you would like to add, just speak up and we'll shut up.
Right.
Trust me.
This is a question that might be very interesting for you, Tiki. And
What's that?
would you guys consider game designers to be a type of architect?
Yeah,
You would, right?
Mine.
I would.
Could you say that question again? When you said that, my game just became like super loud first person.
All right. Well, the question was, would you consider game designers to be a form of architect?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right. Well, in what aspect would you consider them to be architects? I'm pretty sure we know the answer, but we'd like to hear it. Like, what would you guys think make game designers architects?
I would say, answering the earlier question, yes and no.
How
that
so?
there would be architects, because the main function of the architecture in games is to be entertaining, not for it to house anyone, because it's virtual. So
What?
Unless it's a housing simulator.
I would say it's I would say its value of architecture and gaming mainly comes down to how fun it is to navigate, build or move around in,
Interesting.
rather than to make.
Would you have a title in mind for them then? Would you call them something else other than architecture?
What
Would you call it? Would you call it something else
would call
other
it-
than architecture?
I would call it game design.
Game design. Interesting. Okay. I guess that's valid. That's a pretty valid point. It's actually a pretty good point.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. But
I mean,
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, what I mean is that, like, I would consider it not architecture if you just made a bunch of boxes and told you to platform out on them
Then
and
what
call
about
it a day.
3D
like-
modelers then? Would you call them?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like 3D modeling buildings. If you make the buildings like.
Yeah.
Well, I've been playing Half-Life, and you know how a lot of the buildings, a lot of the apartments are just blocks, not very fun to move through, or you just
Yeah.
can't enter them at all.
Okay.
That, I would say, isn't exactly good. Now, don't get me wrong, Half-Life has a bunch of other buildings to move around in that are very.
Yeah, but
good
I mean,
example
when I say 3D
actually.
modeler, I understand what you're talking about. But I mean, like, say for example, a Disney movie. Someone has to like design and draw all those buildings, and then they have to like model them and make them for the character to move around. And would you consider that architecture, or would you just consider that something else?
Well, for an absorbed experience where you're not directly in control of the character who's on the screen, I would say that it does depend on the character's interaction with said set piece. Like if there was let's say there is a
Yeah.
Give me a moment. I need to think of an example.
No, go ahead.
I'm gonna say there is a chase scene, and I'm gonna use an aqueduct for an example. There's a chase scene, and characters run across the aqueduct. They just run across it like a normal bridge, not using any of its dynamics to be interesting or to progress the flow of the scene. I would say that would be uninteresting architecture. So I'd say it's mainly comes down to how well it's utilized in the context of the scenes that
really?
it would be used in.
So
Does that make any sense?
it kind of does. I'm just questioning. I mean, I'm just trying to apply that overall, seeing it from more of a general standpoint. And from a general standpoint, what you're saying, kind of. Don't get me wrong. I know you're not exactly implying this, but it sounds like what you're implying is that, like, if it's not usable, then it's not really architecture.
Well, function.
Quick question: are we counting data architects as well?
Data architects? How so?
I don't know. Like, I'm just wondering. Like, I don't think it actually counts as like something you can see, but like, I'm pretty sure there's a job called data architect that involves data architecture, but I would have to look it up to
I'll
learn
look
more.
it up real quick. One second.
Okay.
Data as
Okay.
in normal
I'm
data?
sorry to.
No, it's fine. It's
Yeah,
fine.
like normal data.
Okay.
Sorry I had to interrupt you, Al, brother. I was wanting to say that before I forgot because
Yeah.
I get mesmerized when I listen to people's talk. Honestly.
Okay. Sorry, Bama, before you continue. For those of you who are listening, a data architect is a practitioner of data architecture, an information technology discipline concerned with designing, creating, deploying, and managing an organization's data architecture. Data architects define how the data will be stored, consumed, integrated, and managed by different data entities and IT systems, as well as any application
Alright, so-
using or processing that data in some way. It is closely allied with business architecture and is considered to be one of the 4 domains of enterprise architecture. Oh, so the rabbit hole continues. We'll talk about that in
no.
a second. Go ahead, Al, brother.
I mean, I don't know if it really counts, but I was just wondering. I had a feeling it would.
I mean, it has
And I
architecture in
after
the
that
name.
description, I wouldn't really. It has architecture in the name, but that's pretty much all it. But anyways, continue, Al, brother.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, so what I was going to say was that in terms of function, like I was saying, function is a really, really broad term. It doesn't really like it while for sometimes if you make an interesting piece of architecture, I believe that it would be a lot more ingraining to the experience if it was used in some way. But if it's like a basic piece of architecture, like say a block apartment or a house, its function can be widely. It can be a lot broader. Like for example, if you just had a bunch of architecture to set a mood, that can be considered a function. Like
That
for
is
example, a
That's a
graveyard.
good
There
point.
doesn't need to be like ants running around in between the stones and stuff. It's just like you can just walk around in it in the graveyard.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess that's a good point. It's just, don't get me wrong. I know I wasn't misinterpreting your message. It's just the way you described the game architecture in a way, game design. I'm sorry. It kind of implied that, but that is a good point as well. So I guess you are right there, and I can see how you can apply that to what you said earlier.
Yeah, well, with game architecture, the difference between game architecture and architecture for media that's passively consumed instead of actively is the fact that you have control over where you're supposed to go, and naturally, what you would want to be able to do is look and go pretty much you want.
Go ahead.
I know that is like that's like it's kind of a childish thing, but
Also,
well, this is a term that gets tossed around a lot, but it would make the experience more immersive if there was just a lot more of everything. And I know that's a very broad, sweeping thing to say, but I'm just saying that like level design, level design has to be interesting and it has to be immersive in order for it to work, whereas movies and TV shows and whatnot get the unique benefit of only needing it to be interesting where it counts, and because they already
Okay.
know where it's going
Yeah.
to be, where
and
it has to be now.
yeah, and sadly, it's only really gonna be used for that one thing most of the time.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right.
Unless it gets reused.
I mean, yeah, but usually that'll only be for an Easter egg or for a sequel. but it really outside of that, it has no real function.
Or to save assets.
True. Yeah. Well, okay, I understand that. Well, what
I
about?
hope it wasn't too much.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Thank you for that information. Actually, that's a very good point. Well, now I actually want to throw that same question to Bama and Tiki because I haven't heard their side of the story. I think so. Bama, what do you think about game design? And considering our brother's points and all, would you agree or disagree with his statement?
From a spectacle standpoint, I would say that game architecture does count as an art. Would count as an art form, so to speak.
I mean, like, does it count as architecture? Period.
Yes and no, because well, I don't know. I really don't know how to answer that statement. I would say yes, but for some reason there's something of me wanting to go not really, but whatever.
No, you can go ahead and explain it if you want to. All right. Well, what about you, Tiki? If you're still there.
Alright, what?
So, okay.
You guys have been listening.
It's fine.
Have you been listening?
So, I wasn't listening. I was like really concentrated into this game.
No, that's fine. Well, now that you're gaming, I guess that's a good segue. Would you consider game design to be a form of architecture, though? And
Yes.
Yes. All right. Why so? Tiki. Tiki. There?
Well, I was kind of like someone listening, but like I kind of agree with like architect for video games kind of like mostly like affecting like 3D games or like the games like I like the buildings actually having like detail and stuff, not just being like flat blocks.
All right. Well then, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess so. Yeah. That's true. Well,
If I could just throw one more thing in,
go ahead.
architecture can be basic but still interesting.
That is
Like-
true. That is true. That's a very big misconception.
Yeah, he's
That
not
is true.
wrong.
Yeah. No, you definitely see that a lot around cities and stuff where a certain building or certain business needs to kind of stick out.
I mean, look at Minecraft.
Good segue.
I don't know why every time I hear someone mention Minecraft, I just picture hearing that kid was like, "Get the F out of my room and playing Minecraft."
No, but that's actually a very good example. I won't lie. Like Minecraft has been,
Get the heck out of my room! I'm playing Minecraft.
but Minecraft has
How dare
actually
you say,
been.
how dare you say heck in this Christian Minecraft server?
But like, no joke, Minecraft has been one of the biggest influences for architecture in today's world. And actually, there have been people that use Minecraft for 3D modeling, architecture, planning, cityscape, and all kinds of stuff. There are businesses. There are businesses that revolve around Minecraft. I'm not even kidding. Professional builders in Minecraft. I'm not even joking. They make like actual art forms. So yeah. I would definitely. I wouldn't say Minecraft itself is a form of architecture, but it is definitely a gateway to it. Yes, it has inspired me and many others. And not only the interesting phenomenon about Minecraft is that it doesn't just inspire architects; it's also inspired electricians, artists, all kinds of stuff. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, nothing.
All right.
Just cleared my throat.
Yeah. All right. Well, actually.
Oh, one moment.
Yes, and actually, talk about that. Minecraft has interestingly become, like, from such a small indie game, it's become basically what is an enterprise. It can be its own enterprise, yeah.
It just
It
started
became
off
people's childhoods.
like it started off as like an indie game, and just now it's just like a timeless masterpiece.
Yeah.
Now it's the mainest of Now it's the most mainstream of the mainstream.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Like, no joke aside. I mean, like, joking aside, that's actually true. And it's amazing how they've had a good enterprise architecture, which actually, from what I've seen here, this is interesting. I actually didn't know anything about this, so I'm learning alongside you guys and the viewers. Enterprise architecture.
By the way,
yeah, go ahead.
This has nothing to do with the subject, but it just popped in my head. and I wanted to see what you guys thought.
Uh,
When does something become so indie that it becomes mainstream?
so indie. Could you rephrase that?
This
But like stuff
bug
like
is
Five Nights,
so annoying.
stuff like Five Nights at Freddy's and Bendy and Ink Machine and other indie games that become really popular. People say, "Oh my God, you're really playing that?" But the only reason that they would say that is because it's so mainstream. It becomes almost like, yeah, obviously you're gonna be playing that. So when does something become so quote unquote indie that it suddenly becomes mainstream without people realizing it?
I'm guessing when it actually becomes a sort of enterprise or a sort of, I guess, official business. Because when you think about, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I left for a moment, and then we were talking about how new games become mainstream.
No, I'm just saying, like.
Sorry,
okay,
I just really wanted to see what you guys thought.
No,
Like,
it's
that
fine.
I
think
couldn't answer that question for my own.
when you think about it, games like Minecraft, like Five Nights at Freddy's, like Bendy's and the Ink Machine, and all that kind of stuff. When you think about it, they started indie, but they had kind of like official business backing. So I guess that's when they became mainstream. When you think of
maybe.
When you think about
And most
mainstream,
I don't
importantly,
know.
and I'm just saying, most importantly, with games like with games like those, I'm just saying, I just don't even dare to look at the fan base. Like, it's just too disturbing.
Well, some of them are. So you can find the decent people, but then you find the people who take it way too far and
Yeah,
draw
but I
Freddy
think-
in a speedo. With them.
Anyway,
Yeah.
as I was talking about before, all these businesses need like a sort of architecture, and like I said, I was learning with the viewer. Apparently, there's a type of quote unquote architecture which is called enterprise architecture, which is, according to the wiki page, is a well-defined practice for conducting enterprise analysis, design, planning, and implementation using a comprehensive approach at all times. For the successful development and execution of strategy, enterprise architecture applies architecture principles and practices to guide organizations through the business information, process, and technology changes necessary to execute their strategies. These practices utilize the various aspects of an enterprise to identify, motivate, and achieve these changes. So, basically, I mean, I guess it looks at architecture in this, according to the definition, it looks at it as more of a a process, like the scientific method. It kind of looks at it as more of a guide than actual.
There certainly are sciences involved, like physics.
Oh no, definitely. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't. I guess this kind of counts itself as an architecture because it uses kind of like the same method you would use for building architecture, like modern architecture. So, I guess it's its own category of architecture, which is interesting. I did not know about this at all, and this is usually used for businesses, obviously, but it has many kinds of categories of its own, like data architect, and there's also information architect, apparently, which information architect is a structural design of shared information environments, the art and science of I can't read. The art and science of organizing.
Don't worry, that happens to me too.
And labeling websites, intranets, online communities, and software to support usability and findability, and an emerging community of practice focused on bringing principles of design, architecture, and information science to the digital landscape. Typically, it involves a model or concept of information that is used and applied to activities which require explicit details of complex information systems. These activities include library systems and database development. So, basically, they're like a category of architecture that is...
You okay, Owl?
What?
I thought I just heard something that fell.
Yeah.
No,
That too. So
that's just
apparently
that's
data
just kitchen
architect
ruckus.
and information architect
Kitchen
are
give me a
ruckus.
moment again.
The best thing up.
So
Give me a moment again while I
that's fine.
lower the sensitivity on my mic again.
So apparently data architect and information architect are like categories of a subcategory of architecture. So these kinds of architects don't work on visual things. They work on, I guess, business. Well, not exactly business. I guess yes, business. Duh. It's enterprise architecture, but it's kind of like an interesting subcategory that you don't really hear much about in architecture. And I'm guessing there's also all kinds of architects in terms of sounds and arts now I think about it, because if you like applying this method of architecture to stuff, it can be applied to more things. And I'm guessing that I'm guessing the rabbit hole goes pretty deep. And it's interesting how you don't really hear much about these, because when you think business, you don't really think architecture unless it's an architect business explicitly, you know? Yeah, it's interesting. So, have you guys heard of these architects by any chance? Like data architect and information
No.
architect?
I would say no. I have not.
I know you did, Bama, right? You told me about this, right?
About what? Sorry, I zoned out there.
No, it's fine. So you told me about data architect. Where exactly do you remember hearing about that?
I don't remember. For some reason I want to say that's what my dad does, but I don't think it is. I'd have to ask him.
Well,
Well, actually, yeah. Let me ask him, because if that's the case, then we might be able to get some insight and
no,
more
that's fine.
information.
That's good. So interesting. So
I'll be
apparently-
right back.
No, that's fine. Go ahead. So I guess we brought some light to what was, I guess, an unknown branch of architecture. Do you think you guys know of any branches of architecture that you think were uncommon? Any kind of methods you would think would be architecture too, with what we found?
Really, I would say that architecture, the crux of it is just function mostly.
Okay.
So I would say something that's meant to serve a function has some sort of architecture in mind. So in a way, a lot of things are architecture.
All right. Could you give an example?
Books, even books are examples of architecture.
Really?
Yes.
And you're talking about story or the actual
Not
Okay.
like, I mean, like,
The
for
physical
example, a
thing.
Yeah, a physical thing.
Oh, okay. So, all right.
Because, it's a step up from a scroll,
All right, I'm back. So I asked my dad, and he is actually a data architect.
Oh, so it's his job. Okay, interesting.
This is his job.
Did he give any information about it? Sorry, Owl.
Not really. He's in
No,
he's
that's
in the middle of Halo. He's replaying the Halo series.
Oh man, I remember Halo 3. Good times.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
Uh,
you were saying,
my most favorite Halo game is Reach.
I don't really play that one. So sorry, Owl. You were saying about how you think.
No. I wasn't saying anything.
No, but you were like talking about how you think the physical, like books, in terms of not stories but actual physical things, are architecture. Apparently.
No, I was saying that they have elements of architecture in them just because they're very ubiquitously just better than scrolls, when it comes to like
Yeah.
flipping through the pages, keeping the pages in one spot.
Yeah,
It's
but
very surface level stuff, but
Yeah, but now that I think about it, if we're going off what we read about like enterprise architecture and what you're saying, I guess it's not just architecture isn't exactly about just finding a function for something. Now that I think about it, architecture seems to be more of a subject for finding the best function out of all of them. So, a scroll has a function, and a scroll kind of does serve the same function, but a book just serves it in a better way if we're going off what you're saying. So I'm guessing it's not just about finding the function. I guess it's more about finding the most efficient of those functions.
Yeah. Well, I would say that why I said functions in general is because sometimes architecture is created for things that don't have a function yet, like things that didn't have a pre-existing function. Like electricians didn't exist a long time ago,
Yeah, that's true.
but now architecture is like retrofitted with cables and electricity and
Also-
piping.
Also,
Stuff that didn't have.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you.
No, that's fine. But what I mean is that what I mean is that's just why I said functions in general instead of the best function. But I guess you could say the best function as well because it's the best function at the time. So
It's what's most convenient at the time, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah. Also, that's interesting. That's also another question I have. Would you consider people who remodel to be architects too? Because, for example, if you're remodeling an old building, and you want to fit like lights into it, but you want to like maintain its interior and exterior, I guess, too. Would you consider that a form of architecture in a way, or would you consider that more of something else?
No, I don't think you can really consider it a lot of something else.
Oh.
It is mostly architecture.
Okay. So you would say that is architecture?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Well, what about you, Bama, and Tiki? What would you guys think about it?
I wasn't here for that part of the conversation. Like, I didn't
No, what I'm saying is, okay, would you
I was
consider...
figuring out what my dad's job was.
No, what I meant was, would you consider people who remodel old buildings to be, like... Would you consider them to be architects? I'm sorry, I forgot the word for a second.
For
Ironically.
me to truly answer this question, you would have to answer this question.
Okay.
Would designers be considered architects?
That's a very broad name. What kind of designers?
I don't know, because like the kind of remodeling I'm thinking of when you say this stuff like what you see on TV where they like take an old house for someone and then
Yeah, that's what I meant.
rebuild it and then also try to find them a new house in case they don't like the remodel.
Oh, I think I know the show you're talking about.
I'm sorry, my mom just loves watching those kinds of things.
No, I actually
and I
used to
just picked
no,
up on it.
I used to watch it with my mom too. I know the one you're talking about, but like that's
I
what
don't
I'm
watch
saying.
it with my mom. I just kind of walked past and saw it and was like, "Well, that's an interesting design."
No, yeah, but okay, would you consider them to be?
I can remember the specific one of one of them. Like,
Yeah.
sorry,
No, that's
this
fine,
one
that's
house
fine.
had like a gigantic cactus in the front yard. It was huge, almost the size of a tree.
Oh, geez, that's pretty big. Yeah.
And as they were trying to take it down, it kind of just fell down. I'm like, "Oh my god, someone gotten hurt by that." Surely.
Well, okay, so that.
And they all just to move it a few inches or so to the right.
Okay, but my question is, would you consider that to be an architecture? Would you consider them to be architectures then?
If they're only redesigning like where the furniture and everything is placed and how things look, no, I wouldn't consider that architect. But if they're tearing down walls and stuff like that, yeah, I'd probably consider that architecture.
Okay, so yeah, I think the aspect you're talking about when furniture and that kind of stuff, that's more of what an interior designer would do. I guess that's a different job
Yeah,
title.
but then there's also some of them that do that and tear down walls, put in new cabinets, rip out sinks and all that kind of thing.
And I'm back.
Hello, welcome back.
I would consider that architecture.
Okay, interesting. So, trying to answer your question about would you consider designers to be architects? Yes and no. Like I know I usually try to break down the questions, but I'm guessing the question you're asking is would you consider all designers to be architects? I'm guessing yes and no because of the example we just gave. An interior designer isn't exactly an architect. They're a type of artist, yes, for sure, but they're not exactly architects specifically. So if you're looking for more of a 3D designer, someone who models and makes things in 3D and possibly makes original artwork in 3D, I would personally consider that a form of architecture because you need to think. Me personally, I'm studying animation in college, and what they tell us is don't just make something in 3D. Like, think about it in the real world. Would this have gravity to it? Would it fall? How heavy is it? How fast does it move? What function does it serve to this character, and would that work in the real world? Like, you can break the laws of physics in 3D, especially in like 3D programs, but you're not supposed to because that breaks the tension of reality. You know, we're in this world and we kind of expect it to work similar to our world. So in a way, I guess yes, you could consider them to be architectures, but them them in a way. Also, I hear a Game Boy in the background. Yeah, so I guess that's to answer your question, Bama. Yes and no. It's more considering what specific function that designer has and what exactly is their job.
All right.
Yeah.
Real quick, I would also like to just suggest this as a topic for later in the video.
Yes.
The way technology has revolutionized the way architecture is built.
Oh, how so?
Because I have one or two great examples, but I'm going to save that until it fits in the conversation.
No, it fits right now. If you want to, right now.
All right.
But yeah,
Okay,
actually,
so-
that's a very good point. Especially with sorry to interject, but well, no, go ahead. I'll wait for you to
Okay.
say that.
So this is another Disney park example, but I think this is really interesting.
Oh, okay.
So they used a computer while they were building Expedition Everest. They used a computer program to kind of figure out where everything needed to be placed, how strong something needed to be, et cetera, for the architecture to support the gigantic animatronic inside the building.
See, that's what I was talking about. That's one of the examples of what I was saying. That's why I would consider them to be a type of architecture because they have physics in mind as
Yeah,
well.
that's why I was kind of wanting to bring this up because I thought it would help supplement your point.
Yeah, that's
But anyways.
yeah.
And so this is also a way that it kind of hinders architectural building because there was a glitch in the program and now the structure is sort of under stress because of all the movement of the animatronic. And now it's stuck in a stationary pose with no movement. So that's
Interesting.
who knows how much money gone to waste on building the animatronic, making it move realistically, but then having it be just a very expensive statue due to a programming glitch
I mean, yeah.
of just the thing they were using to build to figure out how to build it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, human error is definitely a thing. We're not perfect.
I don't think that was human error. They said it was like a glitch in the program itself.
Yeah, but someone programmed someone programmed the
Oh yeah, good
the
point.
thing.
Good point. I don't
Yeah.
really know about that part then. But then the other thing is that Universal has started doing their own projections on the Hogwarts castle, and Disney uses this kind of thing too, 3D mapping for the projections on the building.
Oh yes, I've heard about that. Yes.
I didn't know if that would count, but it's 3D mapping on a computer and it involves
No,
the building,
yeah,
and buildings are
yeah,
architecture.
yeah,
So
I mean, it's interesting because that's actually sorry. Once you finish your point, I'll ask this. But I actually have a good question
I
for you
think
guys.
that was it actually.
Yeah. Would you
I think
guys
that might have been it. I would have to.
would you guys consider
Sorry.
people who like make characters and well, now I think about it, probably not. But would you guys consider character designers to be architects too? Because they have to think about how a creature functions and how it moves. Would you guys
I don't know for sure.
What about you, Al? What about
You
you,
have to
Tiki?
get back to me on. There's no easy way to get about this.
Yeah.
Neither for me.
What, sorry?
I said neither for me.
Neither for you, so you have no stance on that subject.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's not exactly an easy one to tackle. Because
No, I understand.
you
but- can be creating a character to serve a function in a story, or you can be the character through which is projected and the functions are experienced by this character. So, sorry, could you elaborate a bit more on that? I got a little lost.
well, I mean, like characters. I would say, in context of a movie,
Okay.
you can create a character to serve a function, or you can create a character to experience functions.
Oh, I think I get what you're getting at.
So I would say if you're creating a character for a function, for example, to advance the plot or to make a certain event happen, then I would say, I guess in a way that's architecture because you're trying to forward the plot by function of this character.
Okay.
But it's a little harder to do because I would say that this falls more into story and plot writing,
So
or
it's okay.
a lot of it,
It's more of a
not architecture.
true, but
Art
yeah.
certainly, but not architecture.
Okay, yeah, I guess so. Because, I mean, yeah, I would agree because, yes, you do have to kind of create restraints and a sort of reality and limitations for this character. But, yeah, I guess I would agree with that point. You do make a good stance there. What about you, Bama? You think you have an answer?
For the character design thing,
Yeah. Would you consider them to be...
I'd just say yes.
Yeah?
Like they have to meticulously craft this 3D structure of a person, and that's not always easy to do. I mean,
No, but I mean...
I'm sure there was a few artists who just drew paintings of people, and they couldn't draw them without adding tons of geometric shapes in it.
No, but I mean more in the creation of a character never before seen. Say maybe like Baymax. Baymax is a good example of something you have to think about because he is a robot and he is kind of a balloon. So you need to think about the physics of Baymax, how heavy he really is, how light he really is.
Yeah, like I said, you have to meticulously craft the 3D. You have to meticulously craft it.
Okay, so our brother would say not really. Bam Bear would say yes. Okay, interesting. So we have some middle ground here. Interesting. I personally, I really don't have a stance on the subject. I guess it's depending more on what the function of the actual character is. So, like, if it's more...
By the way, when I was saying
Yeah,
when I was saying that there was some artists who had trouble drawing people just without not being able to add shapes and all that kind of thing, I was kind of making a joke on, like, those abstract paintings.
No, that's fine. That's fine. One thing though.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, one thing though. What do you think of architecture and the upcoming wave of virtual reality? Do you think that'll benefit architecture?
Certainly.
I don't know. I mean, it's already kind of being extremely commercialized. I mean, IKEA did an IKEA simulator.
No, I understand, but like...
I'm just saying, like, I don't know. Like, it's probably going to become extremely commercialized before it can become something useful.
I mean, not exactly. I mean, just because something is commercialized doesn't mean it can be used by professionals. I mean, Wacom is it's a digital art company which is extremely commercialized, but it's used by professionals even in the industry of animation and art and all that kind of stuff. So I don't really think that's gonna be a factor that affects how virtual reality benefits architecture. Actually, talking about that, I believe Microsoft is developing a sort of virtual reality integration to glasses. It's kind of like a helmet that lets you see something as a hologram through the lenses. I'll find the link.
That sounds more like augmented reality more than virtual reality.
Yeah, augmented. That's the word I was looking for. Do you really think they?
Oh, you meant augmented reality, not virtual reality.
I meant both. Virtual reality more in the aspect.
When it comes
go ahead.
With virtual reality, I don't really think so. I don't really see how you can incorporate. I mean, well, there was that VR thing I did in. Real quick, just so you know what I'm talking about, there was like this VR thing I did at Disney Springs where it's like you go inside a building and they mapped this virtual reality map onto a little course inside the building, and you would go through. And I did the Star Wars one. There was a Wreck-It Ralph one as well, but I did the Star Wars one with my dad.
Like virtual reality with a helmet or like augmented reality?
Virtual reality with No, it was virtual reality. Like, you couldn't see anything but the world they wanted you to see.
Okay.
In fact, it had blasters you could grab in real life, but they looked like Star Wars blasters in the game. So I was like,
okay. I understand. That's cool.
It was very interactive, and it was very well done, except for the fact that there were some buttons that were kind of off by a few centimeters. And that messed me up.
Yeah.
But anyways, as for augmented reality, I think that might work a little better for architecture, because you're still getting people to look at the architecture, but you might have something weird happen if you look at a certain spot and do this certain thing. Okay. Kind of like how they're doing in Universal with those wands, and in the Diagon Alley section.
I don't really have much experience with that.
I didn't really do it either, but I saw other people do it, and it's like these wands are basically just like really fancy remote controls.
Yeah.
It's like if you stand in a certain spot and do the certain spell, something specific will happen.
Sorry,
it's
to
like
interrupt
part
you,
of the
Bama.
scenery.
Bama, sorry to interrupt you.
I have a
Go ahead.
like a fair share amount of like experience with that. Like I remember like using the wand and like triggering like the dragon they have above the bank.
Yeah,
What,
you
sir?
trigger it to go in Diagon Alley there's a giant dragon on top of the Gringotts bank, and I guess you can either force it to do fire, and then other times it'll just shoot fire on its own.
All right. Well,
Like
what about...
it's pretty close to other buildings, so that's kind of a feat in architecture on its own. You have literal fire being
Wow.
Yeah,
blown out, and
and
who knows
you
what kind of degree of temperature right next to buildings who knows how
Yeah,
easily catch on
and-
fire.
you can feel the heat of the flame.
But that's actually in the ride. I don't remember being able to feel the heat. Feel the heat of the flames out in Diagon Alley, but I guess I might not have been close enough.
Well,
Yeah, like if you stand like right in front of the bank and the dragon breathes out fire, like you can like feel the heat from the flame.
interesting. Well, Al brother, what about you? What would you say? What would we say VR and I guess augmented reality as well? What effect do you think they have on architecture and development?
I would say,
Take your time.
because I'm not exactly nuanced on commerce and business practices and all that, but if I had to make a surface level observation, it would be that there would be a profound effect, because there would be a lot more room for error.
Room for error how?
If building designs were tested out in realistic settings,
Oh, yeah.
virtually, or in augmented reality, then it would become clear what works and what doesn't at no expense other than time.
That yeah,
So-
yeah.
And
I
you wouldn't
definitely see
have to really tear it down
that.
in order to like. So it's just it saves time, I would say,
Okay.
but that's just a very surface level way of looking at it. I don't know much about.
No, but it counts. It counts. I mean, obviously, it's your point of view. Yeah, I guess that is a very interesting way of looking at it, because you could also show I guess, looking at it from a business standpoint, you could involve the client more in a way, because say in the future where virtual reality is very common, or augmented reality is very common, like in the movies, you could just kind of show your client what it'll look like in actual reality, and they could make a more educated decision on whether or not to make it, and less materials and less time is wasted. Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from.
Right.
It's an interesting point, though. I don't know. Do you think it's a good idea to involve the client, though, in architecture? Or do you think it should be a more...
To involve what?
Okay, so usually architectures don't work for themselves. Usually if you're in architecture, from what I understand... Jeez, I can't speak tonight. From what I understand, if you're in architecture, usually you're working for a client. And I'm guessing, like, the client does not think what you think, so there's going to be miscommunication and probably a lot of back and forth. So do you think it will be beneficial to use VR and AR to guide the client, or, like, have the client show what exactly they want, or do you think that'll be a bad idea?
Certainly. I would say, obviously, yeah.
Yes. All right. What about you two, Bama and Tiki? Do you think the client should be more involved in architecture, or do you think that's something that should be more left to the artist?
That depends.
How
If
so?
the client has a specific vision for what they're wanting, they should probably be involved, and they should voice that from the beginning. But if they don't really care what the architecture does, what the
Architect.
architect does, sorry, brain cramp.
It's fine.
and they don't care if they say they don't care what they do, then the architect does this whole thing. Then the client says, "Oh, I'm not happy. Why didn't you do this?" That's just not cool. Like, if you say you don't care and let them do whatever they want, you don't care and let them do whatever they want. You don't say, "Oh, I'm not satisfied with this," after they've done what they wanted to do because you said you didn't really care.
All right. Well,
I'm saying it comes down to a matter of attitude. If you don't care, you better not care. But if you care, you better say something right then and there.
Well, what about you, Tiki? What do you think about virtual reality being integrated into architecture as a business? Do you think it's a good idea? The client might be more able to see their finished product.
Yeah, like that sounds like a good idea.
All right, interesting. Now, interesting question though. Do any of you think that architecture will not last very long, or do you think it will? Like, what do you think is the future of architecture, basically?
I don't think there is going to be any reason for it to either go away or even fall out of quote-unquote style.
Interesting.
Architecture is not just a art form. It is almost a necessity. If you don't have a good architecture system going on with like a building,
Interesting.
it falls down, you got no one to blame but the poor architecture.
True. Okay. Yeah, I mean,
like, there's no really easy way to avoid it. Like, even when we were just building mud huts and stuff like that, we still had designated rooms, places where walls needed to be for load bearing, and all that. So it's not like we just came up with this in like the 90s.
All right. Well, what do you think, brother?
Hey, I came up with this art form. It's called architecture. It's where you build a building to look really nice and cool, but still be functional. Yeah, that's what we're doing anyways, Charlie. Where'd you come up with this? Have you been living under a rock for the past millennia?
Well, what do you guys think, our brother and Tiki?
Oh, is there any reason for it to be? Is there any reason for it to stop, like, at all?
No, that's why I'm asking you guys.
Of course not.
All right.
All in all, I would say it's an obtuse topic to talk about, and it certainly requires a lot more expertise than the amount I have.
No, I understand, but I want to include in the series anyway because I do believe it is an art form. So it was something I wanted to touch anyway. And we did learn a lot about architecture this episode. I mean, I had no idea about enterprise architecture at all. So we got a little extra knowledge out of today, I would say.
Well, it was nice talking to y'all. I'm getting off. See ya.
All right. Well, thanks for joining, Tiki. All right. Well, I want to thank our brother, Bambarif, and Tiki's for the win for joining us tonight on this episode of Architecture. It was definitely it was a bit of a broad topic, and I know we didn't have much expertise on the subject, but I think that was a good thing because we were able to learn about architecture as well. And I guess we were able to shed light on a not so recognized form of architecture, which goes a long way and especially is used nowadays. It is more than ever, I would say. Anyway, if you guys have any suggestions for next week's topic, or if you would like to keep discussing this down in the comments, please feel free to. We'd love to learn more about this subject, and if you are an architect of any kind, please let us know about our mistakes. Please tell us about this subject more. Feel free to share your opinion or your knowledge on the subject. We'd love to learn as well. And other than that, I hope you had fun, and thanks again for watching. Good night, everyone.
Bye.